Hey y'all, peace. Welcome to another Chit Chat. It is early in the morning. I literally did just roll out of bed, literally. But I hadn't been on in a while, and there was something that was on my mind that I was sort of thinking I'd get up and share. It's been, really busy. Really busy, and there's a lot going on in this lovely month of Libra. But something that was on my mind was, I've been having a lot of dreams, and it's been, interesting. An interesting shift and segue in the month of October. We ended Mercury retrograde, and we, moved into an even more self-reflective period. Well, I won't say more, but a lot of self-reflection going on. And, just going deeper and deeper into this energy of, for me, analyzing all of the really deep stuff that we just got finished with in the last transit, right? So, this morning I was thinking on the topic of Jesus and Judas. And this comes from looking at a lot of the so-called problems or dilemmas to be worked through, the puzzles to be solved with regards to people around you that, how can I say it, but like in this age of Aquarius, we're looking to build community. However, if everybody's dealing with restoring themselves from their issues and trying to become whole from the aspects of themselves that have been disassociated through their pain and trauma, then it's not quite possible to have healthy, mature relationships, right? So then everybody, or a lot of people who are going through that, or who are holding the space for that template healing, so that we can literally build the Aquarian community, Aquarian age community that we're charged and destined to build. You have people coming together for very superficial reasons, coming together to survive the healing, not to actually, survive the trauma and not actually move into the healing of the trauma. And so you have, I'm just going to say it, sex is a wonderful thing. I've talked about that before, but you have frivolous sex encounters that are meant just to, like I said, survive. Pleasure is a a very powerful tool in, healing, not true healing, but moving through, or I want to say dispelling the trauma, the emotional and psychological trauma and spiritual trauma that we experience, or have experienced since childhood. However, again, it goes beyond just covering up the pain with pleasure. At some point, it's imperative to go in and actually heal that pain. And to do that, you have to do some unpleasant work, which is sitting with the pain, sitting with yourself, sitting with accountability, even though it's not your fault that you came in. And this is the real nitty gritty for the really indigos, millennials, and post-millennials, is that, it's not your fault. I get it. But just because it's not your fault that you've inherited this nastiness, it doesn't mean that you're not responsible for, healing it. It's not acceptable to just stay in the wound, because what happens then is you attract the shadow characters. And I know you know that by now. And I know many of you have willingly accepted, dare I say, invited these energies and entities in. In the millennial age, and what I mean by that is the the era of millennials that were born, when the millennials were born. It was a very strategic thing to take in the shadow energies. I called it the yin and yang generation, where taking in shadow energies and embarking upon alchemy was, something that was a strategic, working. And, it occurred. Millennials did a really good job of incorporating the shadow energy and, working with it and, attempting to blend it. And they did their share. The energies that be, the powers that, I don't like to say powers that be, but those who are working overtime to make sure that human beings are enslaved, and that enslaved by the shadow aspects, because this is an old game. Remember, this goes way back. And, you always have these warring factions. And there are a few ways to approach them. You can rise completely above it, but a lot of people have made the contract to move through it so that it can be tempered for future generations and for the template itself, the human template. So, again, the powers that be reacted to the mastering of the shadow energy. And I like to, realistically, a lot of the anime, a lot of the, thematic youth cultural trends in the era of the millennials assisted them. A lot of the world, the fantasy world assisted them. A lot of the fae realms assisted them. Fae and Elven are very big themes right now, again. But, it's easier said than done, because when alchemist warriors are balancing energies and doing the work, the shadow entities have several, again, they've been here forever, and they go beyond this earth realm. And, they've got multiple angles from which to, you could say, attack. I really don't like using war terminology and metaphors, but the point is, easier said than done. Not to say that it's been a failure. However, we're at a point in time, in fake space-time, where shadow has penetrated the characters, not so less than in the past, but in a recycling a recycling age or cycle, where we're dealing with shadow energies, infiltrating the inner template. And again, that's usually because this is where the elders play a big part, because the elders are supposed to keep holding that consciousness, and that happens through feeding in the wisdom. And yes, they get bombarded and combated as well. It's not their fault per se, but it's their responsibility, right? Everybody has a responsibility, even though it's not their fault. Everyone has an accountability to persist into embracing and fulfilling their duty of destiny that contributes to the entire template. So, having said that, it also stands to prove that individuals have that choice. That's what it's all about. It's all about making a choice in the moment. It's not some, vague concept of doing the right thing and what is the right thing, overall. In some big scale, we don't know what the right thing is, because our culture is so dimensional and diverse, that what seems right for you may be wrong for me, and vice versa, because we've all had different experiences. But that's not the point entirely. The point is, in each moment, you have an intuition, you have a spirit, you have a conscience, you have instinct. And man, know thyself was an edict given to humans to make sure, not that you are up on your history and your knowledge, but externally and extrinsically, but that you are aware of yourself, and not the ego self, but the self that is a template of humanity that connects to all other humanity. And your unit, your individual unit, sans the ego, is to is to be understood. Like, how does the human template function? How does the psychology function? How do the emotions function? How does the mind function? How does the spirit and what is the soul? What is the soul, and how does it connect, and how does it operate within this human template? And so to know yourself and to know the elements and to be intimate with them and not lose sight of or lose connection to them as you become distracted by Maya, the world of illusions. Which again, I mean, I'm not really, well, I can shapeshift into one of my extremes, which really can't stand, the Matrix, and can't stand, the lower aspect of the three-dimensional, holograph. However, most aspects of me really support moderation. And so, I mean, I enjoy, playing around in the illusion. It's a game, right? It's a game. And it's fine, it's fine. It's just, it's not fine when it becomes a delusion that, takes us off of our path of progressively evolving the soul and the template. So the template, again, is the part of us that we're all contributing to. It's a part of us that we've inherited from our ancestors in their progressive evolution. They hand us this gift of what they've done to create a better human template, and then our children. And then if you want to look at it at the more esoteric level, it's the template that we come back to in the process of reincarnation, if you're into that. So you have an evolved, progressed template of humanity when you come back in the next lifetime, okay? And so we're moving along. Progress is not just about technology and industry and, all that good stuff. It's about the consciousness of the collective, right? So in each moment, we have a choice. And that choice should be predicated based on being in touch with our own intuition and our consciousness. And you inherit parts of that from, your ancestral line. So that's why it's important also to contribute and give back to and uphold that, even if you didn't inherit a good template, even if your ancestors, your parents, because we've got a lot of folly, a lot of awful stuff on this planet. And that's why I say empathetically, I understand that it's not your fault that you act out in certain types of ways because your family did the same thing. I mean, what was really on my mind this morning was just thinking about the ways that we've all been hurt in our childhood, when we all learned that the world was just a heinous place, when we all learned that the world was a lie. Because as children, if we have halfway decent parents and family, they try to protect our innocence. They try to preserve that beauty, for as long as they can. But at some point, we realize, oh my God, all this fairy tale Disney stuff, which is real. It really is real. Magic is real. Quantum. We didn't know it back then. We were just introduced to it as fairy tale magic. But we now know as adults that fairy tale magic is the same thing as quantum. And then the millennial generation, like I said, was really raised on comic book, anime. Indian culture, East Indian culture was taught a lot about avatar energy through, for a very long time. They had cartoons of the Bhagavad Gita stories. And so children, learned, but American culture, and I know all of you aren't American, but I'll say Western culture learned more through, these really detached, cartoon type mythologies. That's what they are, mythologies. And we're unfortunately taught that they're not real, but they are. They are. And the adult version of that has become quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum theory. So anyway, and through that you can actually reclaim your innocence, so to speak, and become ageless through the embracing the truth within quantum understanding. But again, I'm about to wrap this up. It's all about the choice in the moment. And like I said, the theme, and I may come on later and talk about it. Like I said, I just rolled out of bed. But the theme is Jesus and Judas was on my mind when I woke up. And, because I was, really reflecting on all of the people who are so unhappy with themselves that they want to harm others, and innocently. The jealousy, the pain of other people have or doing better than me, and I can't let that happen. And then you make the choice to do something that puts you in a karmic wheel and begins to spin for you, and you're enacting the Luciferian agenda of now trying to alter someone's destiny and suck them into your loop, your figure 8 loop of karma. You want them to be sad like you. You want them to be miserable like you. If I've got to feel this, other people should have to feel this. And I mean, we all know that that's not right. But when people are miserable, they don't care. Again, it's very Luciferian. Lucifer doesn't care. Demons don't care. Are you kidding me? Yeah, they want you to be just as freaking miserable as they are. And the humans that have been taken over by these entities don't really understand. That's why we say ignorance. Some do, a few do, who are far gone. But the majority of humans are just reacting to their pain. And they don't realize that their choice is going to lead them deeper into the ignorance of their own self-betrayal. It's really a self-betrayal. It's a betrayal of your own soul. And so, again, if you've already betrayed your own soul and damned yourself into, a virtual and literal hell, then, it's common knowledge that you want company. And so you're going to do things that either cause people harm and or cause them to react to you so that they can become entangled with you. And this is why I encourage people not to react, but to stand your ground in what you believe in. Stand your ground, hopefully in love and empathy for those very unfortunate beings. Not to say that you won't lose your patience and, your temper every now and then. You may not be perfectly self-controlled. It's like a little kid. You try to stay very patient with them, but when they start throwing tantrums or doing things that hurt other people, then you have to raise your voice, raise your hand sometimes, and let them know, we're not taking that. So, Judas and Jesus, I think I'm going to maybe talk about that later. Maybe I'll come on and go deeper into that story of, Judas, who was beloved by Jesus, as much as the other disciples. Maybe even more. Judas was pretty deep. I don't know if you guys know, but Judas was a pretty deep, complex soul. I would akin Judas astrologically to the sign of Capricorn, and I really have had a special place in my heart for Capricorns throughout my life. I understand the tortured soul of one who's so sensitive and really does care, but discovers that the human template is flawed. It's flawed. It's not perfect. The earth signs deal with on the negative end, or on the shadow end, not shadow, just on the immature end, a romanticization of perfection, and that part of their lesson is to move through the definition by asking the question of what is perfection? Does perfection exist? And if so, what is it? And so the Capricorn template, if you ask me, is, it's the elevated, it's the graduated, mature earth sign. So it's the oldest. It goes in order, right? You have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. And so it's a very complex sign. But the point is that, when on the shadow aspect, because in the tarot card, it's also considered the devil. And it's also co-ruled by Saturn, who also once co-ruled Aquarius. So you have Aquarius and Capricorn, and interestingly, because we're in the Aquarian age, so it's interesting. I don't know what's going on with the planets right now, but I know that Saturn and Uranus were kind of doing something, dancing for a minute in some way or another, either in a friendly way or a non-friendly way, squared or something. I can't recall. But yeah, it's a very complex template. A template who wants to control, a template who is very disconnected and disassociated. In the shadow sense, again, Capricorns can go into a deep, cave, hibernation, or seclusion is what I meant, away from everybody. Again, like the Virgo is the hermit. So the Virgo is, and Taurus too, to some degree, each one really uses time alone as a method of healing and strengthening. And boy, they're doing work early in the morning out there. Can you hear that? It's distracting, but it's okay. I'm about to get off anyway. But so anyway, I'll come back on later and go deeper into that dynamic of Jesus and Judas and being betrayed, and how you deal with those. Our culture tells you to just, oh, they're just haters. Just the haters gonna hate and and just, you're a hater, and that means that, if people are hating on you, that means I don't even want to go into it, because I could do it. I can channel that energy, and I get it, and I'm not just making fun of it. But that's just the survival. That's the survivor's methodology. That's the easy way out. Using the ego of just preserving the self without any other insight into the bigger picture that actually progresses and evolves the template and not just survives it, right? Which is what, Luciferian energy wants you to do too. It's just to be concerned with your own survival, your own business. Don't worry about the template. They'll handle that. But no, that's our responsibility, to recreate and to make a better world through bettering ourselves individually, yes, but also dutifully, collectively. It's the adult spiritual way to be in the world. The immature, not saying bad, but you don't stay a baby forever. You don't just deal with your own sense of self forever. That's toddler. That's toddler mentality. And at the very oldest, adolescent and post-adolescent. But when you start to truly become mature, and not just in the sense of getting old and all that, it's just the maturity. I mean, people want to act like they're mature and do mature things, but they don't want to actually take on that responsibility. It's a duty and a responsibility that earns you the reward of the wisdom and of all the other things that are considered desirable about maturity. Okay. So Judas and Jesus, we'll come back and talk about that later. Hope everybody's well. Let's see, we're at 31 minutes, so that wasn't too bad. And I will wake up some, get a little bit of nutrition or tea going on, and maybe come back just a little bit later today, okay? All right, until then, peace.